I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, March the 17th, brought to you in part by the Mush Rush family. They've got their annual production sale this Friday, March the 20th, from Elmdale, Kansas, right in the heart of the Flint Hills there. It's going to be at 12:30 p.m. Central. They've got 18-month-old Red Angus bulls. They've got some Red Angus Simmental composite bulls. Got a load of bred heifers on there. A part of a load of some open spring heifers there, but don't miss the sale. You can view and bid on dvauction.com this Friday, March the 20th, 12:30 p.m. Central. Your boxes were sharply higher on Monday. Of course, if you've been watching me all through this coronavirus deal, your weekly trade in your boxes has been higher on the weighted average. And you might think, well, yeah, that's understandable because people have been rushing out and buying up all the meat in the supermarkets. Yeah, but your cattle market has just been nosediving through this, and it's unbelievable. You know, I come out here on the opening, the visit for the week, and had lots of texts and phone calls and just a big groundswell of your cash fat cattle sellers saying they were going to hold for 115. Thought we might have a chance. And Monday morning we had basis jumpers puking cattle at 105. When everybody agreed they were going to hold for 115, they wouldn't even had to got in on the agreement. Just wait till later in the week. They puked them at 105. Of course, later after your noon boxes had come out, and it became almost embarrassing. The margin that your packers were working for, they did move up to 110, and we saw some more trade there at the 110, but still never got the 115. Could get it later this week, but just in a nutshell, that's what's wrong with this industry, your cattle industry. You've got these contract formula sellers just working off of the basis. They have no care in the world about what the price of cattle is. They're hedging those cattle all the way to their gills, and they're on a contract formula deal, and they don't have any care in the world what that market is. It's only about the basis, which is the difference between your cash price and your futures price. Well, your cash price at 105, your futures were pretty well locked down the limit. Most of the day they come off of it a little bit, but April live cattle just under 92. Pretty nice basis. And you think, well, what's the problem? They can sell those cattle like they want to. They're their own cattle. Sure, they're their own cattle. If they want to continue to run this industry, just keep doing it. Be that selfish person that pukes those cattle, jumps the basis every week, and then nobody else can seem to do anything. The problem with that is your cattle raisers, your cow-calf man, your backgrounder, they've got to keep some type of a market position. You can puke cattle and jump the basis all you want to until cattle get to zero, I guess. But your people that raise those cattle and background those cattle, they've got to have a price for them that they can live with. They've got to buy stuff. They can't live for free. They've got to be able to pay for that ground or the lease or whatever they've got to run those cattle on. They've got to be able to pay a decent price for those cattle if they're growing those cattle. They've got to have some type of a market position there. And the more you jump and puke those cattle, it just drops and drops and drops and drops. And how are you ever supposed to gain any ground when you've got more than 3/4 of your guys selling off of last week? It's damn hard to gain a buck. It's almost impossible to gain a buck. And we've got no longs in your live cattle futures. Nobody's playing the feeder cattle futures much at all. But it's really a sickening way to watch this industry go down the drain. If you don't know what your history is, you're doomed to repeat it. And I tell you what, we are walking right in the footsteps of the poultry and the hogs. And if guys don't love this industry, and the guys that do it, they're very unapologetic about it. By God, they're my cattle. I'll sell them however I want to. Sure. What are you going to do? What are you going to do in 10 years? You're going to wear a shirt around that says I love Packers right here on the side, and you're just going to work for them? You're going to have no skin in the game yourself? and talk about the old days when we used to have sale barns, and we used to have a lot of cow-calf producers out there owning their own ranches and things like that. This is sickening to watch, guys. Now we're in a crisis, and we've got the packers literally taking advantage of this crisis. You know, coming out bidding lower money early in the week. Of course, they probably never dreamed guys would puke cattle that easy. You know, that's kind of the way it goes on a normal week. You kind of start out and you dip your toe in the water, and you kind of say, well, here's what I'd be willing to give at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. Who's to think you've got guys that are going to puke them to you just for the basis? You know, you got to look at the Packer side of it too. You can't imagine them coming out and bidding more than they were given last week. You know, that just goes against the grain. But I tell you what, it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to watch these people that are struggling. You know, we talked about it on an earlier visit. These cattle people normally don't get a bailout. They normally don't get any kind of help from the government, just straight up. Maybe once in a while they get a drought check because, you know, the row crop farmers are getting so much that they almost have to give something to the guys that have the ground right next to them, but they're trying to graze cattle on. But that is it. No cheese checks for the most part, no LDPs, none of that kind of stuff. If guys don't get it this time, there's going to be a lot fewer of them when it's over. I mean, you just can't give up 30% equity, you know, in your cattle in a week and a half or something like that and expect to stay hung in there. There's people in there that don't, you know, hedge their cattle. And you think, my God, why wouldn't you hedge your cattle? They got to make some money at some point. They don't handle tens of thousands of them. They handle a load or two here and a load or two there, maybe just the cattle that they raise. They've got to be able to make some money on them. They think that they've got those cattle raised worth the money. They think that they're good cattle. They think that they'll feed well. A lot of times they're feeding them themselves, and guys think that they can do it cheaper and maybe come out and make a little money there. And so they need to hit a home run once in a while, and a lot of them don't hedge their cattle. You got a deal like this that just locks the board down the limit every day. You know, it just takes them out. It absolutely takes them out. And they're going to have some kind of help. There's just going to be a whole lot fewer of them. And don't you guys believe that every time we lose another independent producer, and it's the small guys we're losing, not the big ones, but you know, they live out in the rural parts of this country. They send their kids to a rural school in a ranch community, and there's fewer and fewer of them. And then the community can't afford to maintain the schools. They can't afford to maintain you know, infrastructure in the ranch communities. And then we have another one die. That when you're out in the rural parts of the blacktop, you guys drive through them. They got all the downtown businesses boarded up and just nothing going on in the town. This is what brings it on, guys. And it is sickening to watch. But, you know, your Packers getting along once again. Every time there's a crisis, you know, the profits just roll in. I don't care if it's mad cow. I don't care if it's a crash of the economy. I don't care if it's a plant fire. Whatever it is, your Packers always end up having more profits, and the cattle producer ends up holding the bag. So you see all these pictures of these empty meat cases, these housewives fighting over the last package of hamburger meat and things like that. Do you think those housewives are looking at the price on that hamburger meat as they're fighting over it? Hell no. They throw it into their basket and they rush up to the clerk to pay for it. And so how do you pick up so much ground? $16 on a one-day trade on a Monday with monster volume on your box beef cutout values. The Packers literally set the price for that stuff. You know, they don't haggle on each one of those cuts. They ask more for it, and your beef purchasers are forced to pay it because they've got empty shelves. And meanwhile, you got these cattle people, when they could shut the spigot off on these Packers and make them give more money, they absolutely will not do it. and in the end are going to pay for it. There won't be anything. And you guys that don't feed cattle, you think, oh, that's not going to affect me, you know, I sell yearlings. Okay, let's get down where you have about 4 people to buy your yearling feeder cattle. How you think you're going to get along there? It's not going to be like one of these big fancy videos where you all go to the mountains or the casino or something and you're sitting there having a nice cocktail while there's 12, 15, 20 people bidding on your cattle online, on the phone, and in person. No, it's not going to be that way anymore if we continue to let this thing drift away from us. And just pay attention, try to do something. This is your market. The fat cattle market is your market. Now your retail price, that's your grocer's market. Now a buddy of mine up there in northeast Oklahoma was preaching this to me earlier today. The grocer's market's a retail market. Your packer's market is your box beef cutout values. This fat cattle cash market is your market, cattle feeders. And if you don't want to hold it up there and you won't help it and you won't force your hand and you don't dig in, then it's just going to trickle down and take all your independent cattle people out of business. Let's look at the board for Monday. April live cattle futures down 372 at 91.85. That's your spot fat cattle futures price, 91.85. Sure makes for a nice basis to jump. June live cattle down 450, 85 and a quarter. That's your early summer market, 85 and a quarter. All your other traded months were down well over $3. March feeder cattle down the limit, of course, down $4.50. Your feeder cattle opened down the limit, went up the limit, and then closed down the limit. You think this thing's not screwed up? March feeder cattle, 108.50 on the close. Just imagine that, 800-pound steers, 108.50. April down 450, 108.10. All your traded months of feeder cattle closed down the limit. Fat cattle, like I said, you had guys coming out first thing Monday morning. When your packers are bidding you Monday morning, they need cattle. We knew that they were short bought. They're calling for cattle that they weren't expected to get for 2 weeks. They're calling for them tomorrow, you know, bring them right now. Some of your cow processors, you know, they ground product all weekend long trying to fill these orders for hamburger meat. They're short bought. We've got a lot of cattle on feed, but they're not ready yet. But, you know, pretty early Monday morning, we had guys selling 105. You know, had some guys up in the Midwest puke at 103. And then we got those weak sisters. They kind of got done, and then we didn't hear too much go on. And then a lot of your guys got livid when the noon boxes come out saying they were up $11 to $12. And just, I mean, red in the face mad. Well, finally your packers kind of give in a little bit and start buying some more cattle at 109 and mostly 110. Your dress price was 170, and that was the predominant price that we had all last week. Iowa confirmed sales about 4,300, 103 to 109, 170 dress. Nebraska 14,800 head from 105 to mostly 110 and 170 dress. Kansas 4,800 head, 105 on the early puke sales, 110 a little bit later. Still didn't get to 115. There's still some bigger feedlots that sell cash out there, and some of these cooperative marketers that looking for 115 may get it before the end of the week. This is a Monday trade, guys. Texas 2,900 head, 105 to 110. Box beef cutout values, I told you they were up 11 to 12 at noon. By the time they closed Monday afternoon, your choice cuts 224.36, up $16.22, guys, as they see all the news coverage of people fighting over the products in the meat counter. This is on a day when many of your big metropolitan areas in several states all over the country, but including Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, those places closed down their sit-down restaurants, and they're selling choice product up $16.22 on a one-day trade with monster volume. 216.71 on your selects, up 14.73. Choice Select spread $7.65. And like I said, nearly 300 loads on a Monday spot sales. That's over half what they typically do in a regular week's time. Real-time index on your feeder cattle market for DV auction based on an 800-pound steer, 126.81, down 41 cents. So we'll just continue to trickle off that, but we don't have much receipts anywhere. People are too scared to sell them. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, there was a little bit of uncertainty if they would have a sale because the mayor of Oklahoma City had said he didn't want more than 50 people getting together, but this was more of a business transaction than just a gathering. But Oklahoma City Stockyards sit right there in town, but 1,200 head, there's all they had at Oklahoma National Stockyards. Feeders, $9 to $15 lower. Last week they were $7 to $11 lower. So they're $20 to $25 lower, guys, than they were just 2 weeks ago, and that is enough to lose a ranch. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 1,700 head, $10 to $15 lower there. Some calves as much as $20 lower. It is a wreck. Got some individual quotes. These are the best quotes I saw, and there wasn't a lot of big load lot deals, but I'm not going to start giving pieceable loads and bumper pull trailer loads. I'm going to give you loads of cattle, and these were the best load lot sales that we saw all day on Monday. Callaway Livestock Center, Kingdom City, Missouri, 55 head of 906-pound steers, 111. Bluegrass Stockyards, Lexington, Kentucky, the big flagship headquarters there for Bluegrass Stockyards. 61 head of 825-pound steers bring $116.95. I mean, they get down to the nickel on them. But, that's an awful good quote. Sitting out east there, better than any quotes I saw on 8-weight steers in the plains of the Midwest or anywhere else. Sylvan Sales Commission, Sylvan Grove, Kansas, a little market with the big prices. 74 head, 640-pound steers at $147.50. Not too bad. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.